dedicated to the election of the leadership of our parliament. You've done your civic responsibility to keep Ugandans informed on time, not to get it after it has happened. So that is a very good commitment level on your part as a media house, for which you deserve to be appreciated. Now, going to your question of whether it matters who leads parliament, the answer is absolutely yes. It matters greatly and immensely. Because what happens is that we have the three arms of government, as well highlighted by my friend. And in a multi-party dispensation, it is the party that offers a candidate as a presidential candidate.
Yes.
Now, when you get your presidential candidate winning, it is not only the individual, exclusively individual personality of an individual, but it is a package of aspirations that you want to share with the country in the form of the manifesto. So a winning manifesto can best be implemented with the support of Parliament, because you will need a budget to implement the manifesto, you will need the laws, you will need the oversight, you will need the representation where members of Parliament bring their views in a regard with the manifesto. So Parliament plays a complementary role in the implementation of the manifesto. Therefore, it is absolutely necessary for the party in power to be interested in who is going to lead that arm that plays a complementary role in terms of managing society. So it is absolutely necessary that you take interest, because at the end of the day, the executive initiates, but the necessary legislation and policy framework is undertaken within Parliament. So if you initiate good laws and they are not passed in time, then you will not be good in terms of your service delivery mechanism. If you initiate very good policies and interventions, and the budget is not passed in time, or is not passed in conformity with your priorities, again you'll fall short of the expectations of the people that put you in power. So for those reasons and many other more, it is very, very important that a party in power gets very interested in who takes that responsibility. Because at the end of the day, the ruling party, when it wins the mandate of the people, it has a responsibility of deployment. That's why you'll have a cabinet deployed. That's why you'll have RDCs deployed. All these play complementary roles. And in our case, and in the case of the NRM party, you find that even chairs of committees, chairs on commission, are also vetted by the party. So it is for purposes of creating a team and a leadership that should complement the chief executive of the country, who is the president, in fulfilling the mandate and in implementing the manifesto, which is the basis for which the party got the mandate.
Okay, quite interesting. Mr. Akol, when you look through, you do realize that for the top positions, that is, or rather the top position in Parliament, which is speakership position, there is Jacob Oulanyah, Honourable Jacob Oulanyah, who was vetted, and I wouldn't say vetted, but who was endorsed by SEC, as well as adopted by NEC and the caucus of NRM. Then, of course, there is Ibrahim Semujunganda, fronted by the FDC, and for some reason, a power force from the opposition. And then as well, Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga. I would say outgoing Speaker of Parliament, well, pending what will happen thereafter anyway. That is after the day. Now, in the view of what Honourable Mike Sebalu...
You see, now we don't have a speaker. So even the outgoing or anything, we don't have a speaker now. Okay. Every parliament elects its speaker. Even if you continue, you are of the previous and you take a new mandate.
Okay. Quite wonderful correction there. In the view of how Honourable Mike Sebalu gave it unto us, the aspect of importance of who is sent forth by the party, Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga, Honourable Woman MP Kamuli, comes through and says, because you did not give me the party ticket, I am coming through as an independent. Does this still represent NRM? Does it mean NRM is having double views in plenty? Or perhaps it is a bit of a rebellion?
Well, I know, you know, the political parties operate on the philosophy of free entry,
democracy,
free exit. When your interests are really accommodated in the party, you are good to stay in the party. But when you feel that really your interests are being suffocated, a political party is not a prison, you have the right to move out. Yeah, but again, also political parties must operate in cohesion. They must have a system whereby all members are whipped to follow a particular line of thinking. And that's why it is very, very important that parties should always have their members trained to know what is the strategic interest of the party, what is it that the party needs to achieve. Now, world over, parties operate on guided democracy. Guided democracy. Otherwise, if you're going to say that you leave everything to democracy, full democracy, that people should always elect, then you're going to derail the party. Because at times we could say, well, maybe you have Honourable Sebalu and Kent, and say maybe in this particular position, depending on what we want to achieve in the next 5 years, we feel maybe Honourable Sebalu is the right place to help us achieve. Therefore, as a good member of the party, you are duty bound to actually listen to the leadership of the party. So in this particular election, I don't say that NRM has 2 candidates. NRM has 1 candidate, as it has always been doing. The day you defy the party position, you cease actually being, you cease actually carrying the flag of the party. That's why at every election, every party presents a candidate. And therefore, if every party presents a candidate, it is always upon the party members to follow to follow what their party has told them. But however, in some instances, we've also seen situations where perhaps the candidate that has been presented by the party is not appealing to their members. Yes. And therefore, in such situations, you find that some members may defy the party and say, look here, the person you've given us, I think we better go with the other person. So those cases, those scenarios are there. But where a party has something to achieve, it will always work very hard to make sure that their position sails through. I want to take you to, in 2007, that is in Kenya, where we happened to be with Honourable Sebalu. When ODM had the majority, actually had a slight majority in Parliament. Actually, their number was slightly bigger than the PNU in Parliament. PNU presented Ole Kaparo. Ole Kaparo was one of the best speakers then Kenya has ever had. And ODM came up with Kenneth Marende. Kenneth Marende, no one knew about Kenneth Marende. But because ODM told their members whether Kenneth Marende has a history of being a speaker or not, whether Ole Kaparo of PNU is the best speaker we've ever had, for us as ODM, the person we want is Kenneth Marende. And indeed, Kenneth Marende went through. So I think this is going to be the same speaker, whether it is the same scenario at Kololo. Whether Kadaga has been a good speaker, but the fact that NRM enjoys majority in that house and they have a candidate, I see the NRM candidate actually going to carry the day.
Well, we want to get to the side of Kololo and find out what exactly is happening. But of course, in due course, we shall keep connecting with our audience here at UBC TV, just in case, as has been the case. And well, I think I do see a gentleman on the screen. That is Jagenda Semakula Zikusoke, a very happy man from from the results of the sporting activities that came through from the day yesterday, but as well hoping he will be a happy man by the end of the day and the results that will be coming out of Parliament, in this case Kololo grounds, this particular day. Welcome to the show, and as well we do welcome you this particular morning to Parliament. Jagenda.
Yes, Kent. A very good morning. I just hope you can hear me very audibly, loud and clear from the Colonial Independence Grounds where I am. Good morning, Kent. Good morning to all our viewers of UBC TV, and good morning with whoever you are within studios, Kent.
Yes, indeed. Well, on their behalf, good morning to you. So, Jagenda, please keep us posted. For the very first time, we are seeing Parliament getting started at Kololo. Probably, maybe the last time round it was a different place, the very first session, the very first sitting. Why Kololo? That's the first thing. And then two, the activities that are coming on the day.
Well, thank you very much, Kent. You started with a sporting event, and you said, I'm very happy about what happened last evening when our London rivals of Tottenham Hotspurs actually paved the way for us to participate in the next edition of the Europa Champions League as Chelsea. Then here, you said when the day ends, you don't know whether I'll be happy or not happy. I am neutral. Whatever the result of whatever happens here is, I am only here as a journalist and as an observer. So the rest is parliamentary business. But away from all that, just letting you know that the last event that we had of this nature was at Parliament, because ideally that is where it should be happening, or that's where it is supposed to happen. Now you'll notice that the last time when this happened, Parliament had just above 400 and I think 70 to 80 members of Parliament, and we didn't have any problems like COVID-19 that we do have now. They could squeeze in one of the halls at Parliament, and that's where the activity for electing the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker in 2016 happened. That's when they elected the Right Honourable Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga, and Oulanyah took it over, tussling it out with Mohammed Inselek of Kampala Central. Now that event happened at Parliament, the precincts, and of course that's where it's supposed to happen. It is actually supposed to happen on the floor of Parliament where they do the plenary sessions from. But because they are very many in number, we now talk about 529 members of Parliament, and yet it's also happening in the middle of a pandemic of COVID-19. So coming to Kololo here is just everything as it is done here. It's the same way as it is done in Parliament. Even we, the journalists, are not even allowed to cross everywhere, because you don't just cross on the floor of Parliament because it's Parliament. So they have only shifted the location of Parliament to Kololo to be able to accommodate all the 500 members of Parliament, everybody here with the observers, the press, the media, and all the support staff of Parliament for what is actually going to happen on this day.
Thank you so much, Jagenda. We also need to know, we can see ballot boxes just behind you, probably one or two of those are visible on the screen. And we are wondering, how is this voting exercise going to be run? Is it going to be open-ended, or it's going to be secret ballot?
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I think that's a very pertinent question, Tony Kent Ichaze. Now, I purposely intended to stand here for you to actually be able to know that the exercise that is going to happen here is a voting exercise, and that's why we actually have these ballot boxes here to help in managing that particular process. But yet again, so many people talk about the idea of possibly just raising up their hands in favor of or standing behind, like we did when we were voting for the local council leaders. However, when you look into the rules and procedure of Parliament, specifically Rule 5 that talks about the election of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, it says it's supposed to be by separate ballot. So what is going to happen is it's supposed to be a separate ballot, and now that is something that we don't think they can decide to amend now. However, remember that the presiding officer or the presiding judge for this particular event that is going to happen here is the Chief Justice Alfonso Owiny-Dollo. He has a discretion to actually come and overrule Rule 5, which says the election must be by separate ballot. But now, if that happens, it also jeopardizes members of Parliament in the House, especially during the times of debates, because when we are talking about it, when we are amending and realigning some of these rules, that was also hinted about, and they decided that it should be by separate ballot, because if it's not by separate ballot, then you will have a speaker who knows that Honourable X or Y or Z that cannot vote for me, so that can also cause some friction on the floor of Parliament, especially when they are dispensing a parliamentary business. So we think that they will stick by Rule 5, which talks about a separate ballot, because that is in the rules of procedure. Now that this is a parliamentary event, and it is their first sitting of the first session of the 11th Parliament of Uganda.
Wow, thank you so much, Jagenda Semakula. We definitely will be getting much more from that side. But before, probably, we are wondering, and probably there's been a question or two from the watching audience. They are wondering why exactly there was room for, you know, a decision to be made yesterday and as well getting effected today. Is it possible for Akola Mazima to come through, or maybe Honourable Mike Sebalu to come through and stand for Speaker and Deputy Speaker, probably on the independent ticket as well now? Was there no kind of a timeline for that kind of application to be done?
The timelines were here. You remember very well that the whole of last week we went through the swearing-in ceremony of members of parliament, and 529 of them all came and took oath of office. Now, when they came to take oath of office, they were coming and appearing in order of their alphabet and according to their alphabetical order of the names. So you notice very well that on the day that the Right Honourable Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga came to swear in, thereafter she also went and took her papers to show interest that she wanted to stand for this position under the NRM. You've also heard about Ibrahim Semijunganda of the FDC. Much earlier he came out, and of course internally with the party he wrote the party, and of course the party assented to his wish or candidature. It's the same thing that happened with DP of Sebamala. Now, even with the NRM, you remember that according to the processes and systems, is one had to write and show interest. So this was actually done. So they actually knew who wants to be speaker, who wants to be deputy speaker, and of course this had already happened. So it's not an event that happened and that somebody had to think overnight for the next way and how to manage it.
Well, of course, the gentlemen in studio have observed one particular thing. Jacob Oulanyah is a very wise man. He opted to stand where there is no rain falling upon him and is safe as we speak right now. But Jacob Oulanyah,
I protected my hair.
Oh, we can see you. We wish to know, please paint us a picture of those that are taking part in this particular election. That is from the position of Deputy Speaker and as well the position of Speaker. And perhaps, are they in that place already?
Yes, the candidate Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga, an independent candidate, was the first to arrive on site here, and she's already seated. She is already here. The other candidate, Ibrahim Semijunganda of the FDC, is also already here. These are now the two that we've actually been able to see, and both of them are tussling it out for the speakership. Now, for those that are vying for deputy speaker, all of them are not yet here. Maybe because of the rains, in a way, they are not yet here. And members of parliament arriving, all the 10 members of parliament representing the Uganda People's Defence Forces are already here. They've all arrived and sat in their positions. When you look at the way the tent has actually been set, is like I told you, it's parliament in just a different area. So the seating does not change. Those on part of government sit together. The independents have their own aisles where they sit, and of course the opposition has also got where they sit. So whenever they come, they know how to sit, they know where to sit. But from the looks of things, we talk about 529 members of parliament. But if I looked around here, and if I just guessed that everybody who is seated on the chair here is a member of parliament, then we yet don't have even 100 of those, and we need to have all the 529 members of parliament. So those who are going to vote for their leaders, a few of them are here, but we wait and expect that all the others, of course, will come and be ready. Those who are in charge of the processes here, you can actually see them ready, looking through every documentation, looking through the voters' registers, and I think cleaning up them and making sure that everything is actually in order. So that's what is going to happen here. But remember that every one of these candidates is going to have 2 agents who are going to represent them in this particular exercise. So for the position of speaker, then we expect to see 6 agents. That's 2 for each of them, for Rebecca Kadaga, Oulanyah Rokoli, and Nganda Shemuju. So that's exactly what is happening here, but we wait to see how it plays out for the rest of the day.
Wow, wonderful dissection there from Jagenda Semakula Zikusoka. And perhaps as well a bit of a question I'll put to him before we can actually maybe perhaps get a bit of conclusion so we can join into Kololo. The deputy speaker is going to be voted courtesy of a presiding officer who will then be the speaker of parliament. By your look of things, which camp is actually having the greatest of magnitude? Sorry to ask.
Well, because I actually do not know the camps. When I got here, I had actually 3 camps. I had there's a camp for the head of state himself, the president. I had there's a camp of Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga, and I also had there's a camp of Jacob Oulanyah. Now, this is a rumor I'm hearing, but I can't place who in what particular camp. I don't know who belongs to camp Y or camp K or camp O. I actually do not know. So we're only waiting to see what happens. And because it's going to be a separate ballot, you never know what human beings are capable of doing, especially when they are all by themselves. So it's an exercise. But maybe finally, before you let me go, I want to remind you of a scripture in the Bible in Proverbs 16:16. It's a very clear one, and it says, when you have two contending people, you cast a lot, because the lot is able to separate the strong. Now, none of these persons is into this thing, and they are weaklings, they are weak, they are feeble, they are wanyonge. So these are all strong people. So what is only going to separate them is the lot that is going to be cast today.
So, Mr. Jagenda, what time should we set our clocks to alert for the start of the 11th house in as far as today is concerned? What time should we set?
I am actually just, I also asked that question here to one of the organizers, and they can't commit them to what time exactly, because when they expected and thought that the people would be here by this time, it is turning out differently. And of course, nothing on the order paper is going to be omitted or to be skipped. It will run as it's supposed to run. So I also can't be very definite on what times, but we will just let you know what is happening. We decided that we'll be here from when it starts to when it ends. So there is nothing to worry about. We will let you know what happens and how it happens.
Well, I'll let you know one thing, Jagenda, you're missing out on studio. There's a lot of fun with Mr. Cole and Honourable Sebalu, but of course we'll be getting back to you in a little while to come.
I'll get my cup of tea later when I return to station.
Oh, come on. Well, welcome back, dear viewer, from that side of Kololo for now. And as we are in studio trying to get to paint a picture of the whole bit of the scenario and the function as it's going to be unfolding, the two gentlemen in studio with me are none other than Mr. Akol Amazima, our very own, a resident panelist and analyst on more so political issues, and Honourable Mike Sebalu, formerly at the East African Legislative Assembly, and hoping probably to go back or maybe get a big something somewhere in the upcoming cabinet. Why not anyway? Let me get to us, gentlemen. In the aspect of Honourable Alitwaala Kadaga, and actually this is for you, Honourable Mike Sebalu, she did say that she's been sidelined by her party, the NRM, yesterday when she spoke during a press conference, as well as when she just got out of State House after the endorsement of Honourable Jacob Oulanyah. But in as far as what she said she's going to continue speaking on behalf of the less privileged people, as well as work for the people. Does this probably portray Jacob Oulanyah as not working for the people in case he comes into this office?
Thank you very much, Kent. I respect Right Honourable Alitwaala Kadaga as a leader in my party, second vice chairperson. That is a very high level of responsibility within the party. She's been a Speaker of Parliament for 10 years. She's been a Deputy Speaker 10 years. She served as a member of Cabinet in various portfolios that included parliamentary affairs, included works, included regional cooperation, and she served as a member of Parliament as early as the NRC. So she is a recognized and leader, and I think that profile goes to show and demonstrate how at various points in time of her political career, the party and the leadership has empowered her and given her opportunity to serve, given her opportunity to lead. So I really respect her for that. Now, regarding the statement that may create impressions that she was sidelined, I don't want to take it that way, because in a democracy, you definitely, when you go in any context, there could be an opportunity to carry the day. There may be an opportunity not to carry the day. And when you've not carried the day, it may not really mean that you are sidelined. Neither does it mean that you are incompetent or you are not useful. Honourable Kadaga remains a very useful member of the party, and I want to believe and I do believe that she's still a member of the party, very useful, and has served and has contributed. So when it comes to maybe giving another person opportunity, because these leadership positions create opportunities for different people at different time. Sure. Because there was also a time in 2016 when a similar kind of scenario did take place. Again, it involves the two actors. Where
in which case it was the reciprocal.
Yeah, it is now the reverse order effect. Now that time again, one of the interested parties did not get opportunity to carry the day, and continued serving the party. So in party dynamics, that's how normally things move. I can give you an example in Tanzania, because issues of party loyalty and issues of party discipline are very critical. President Benjamin Mkapa and President Ali Hassan Mwinyi, Presidents Emeritus, at one point in their service career, political life, they were ministers of foreign affairs at different times. Their principal then, who was Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, did something to both of them in a similar manner. Each one was a minister of foreign affairs, then is redeployed as an ambassador. And without any question, without anything, they just went and served. Surprisingly, both of them later on became heads of state, which now may go to loyalty to the party and being available as servants of the party. That spirit is something that can help inform certain decisions we take when we find ourselves in a manner which may appear compromising, or which may appear disappointing. But once you believe in the organization, you remain seized with the opportunity to serve. It is not so much the position that you occupy in the party. It is so much the service you are willing and able to render, and the influence that you remain with. I want to say that with the profile of Right Honourable Kadaga, regardless of whether she is the Speaker of Parliament or not, she's a distinguished leader in this country. And she will remain to wield a lot of influence and can be of good service to this any considered.
Honourable, I would love to take that question as well to Mr. Akola Amazima. Mr. Akola Amazima, there is so many of the Ugandans watching us right now, and you could as well be sure there is so many of the Africans watching us right now. Their major bit of concern might be different from what the two gentlemen have as a concern, but to them it is a concern. I'll take you back to the time when former Vice President Gilbert Bukenya Bali Baseka vied to become MP. Many will tell you that was a demotion of sorts. Well, of course, I'll shift us from Uganda and take us to probably Russia, where the current president initially was prime minister in the previous term, and it was okay, because after all, by the time he was prime minister, he had previously been president, Mr. Vladimir Putin. In this kind of scenario, bringing it to the plate or the side of the Ugandans, in the aspect of Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga losing out on becoming speaker and only be remaining woman member of parliament for Kamuli, will it not be a demotion of sorts? I mean, no escorts, no privileges of a speaker, but just an ordinary member of parliament. Is it not a demotion?
Well, I don't know what you'd call as a demotion, because people are called to serve. Like Shakespeare says, the world is a stage, everybody is called upon to play their part, and once your part is done, then you quit the stage. So if in the view of NRM, if they feel that yes, her time as the speaker, perhaps she came and played her part, in the next 5 years they feel perhaps it is Jacob Oulanyah to take them through that. I think so. That is them. But I also want to look at bring you some scenarios. Like he gave us a scenario, Honourable gave us a scenario of Tanzania. But I want to give you a scenario here in Uganda. We had Right Honourable late to Wapakabulo. Wapakabulo was elected speaker in 1996. 2 years down the road, he was still very popular. 2 years down the road in 98, he's convinced by his party, say, look here, we are supposed to carry out a national mobilization, and we need an NPC, National Political Commissar, who can do that. He stepped down from being speaker. He had been elected, remember. His term was still on. He stepped down. Midway. Not even midway. 2 years, not even midway. 2 years. He stepped down and became the NPC. And when you look at the structure of government, NPC is just something very, very small compared to what he was as the speaker, number 3. So if you're part of the party, you must always be ready. You must always be ready to play whatever role the party wishes you to. When in Kenya, when KANU felt that they needed to groom Kenyatta as their flag bearer, Kenyatta was not even a member of parliament. He was in business, Uhuru Kenyatta. But when Moi talked to Biwott was even a cabinet minister, stepped aside.
Total man.
Total man. He was a very powerful man. He stepped aside and, in other words, he resigned from his constituency, from his parliamentary seat, and therefore Kenyatta was nominated to parliament and was appointed minister. So because they were trying to. So as in a party structure, in a party system, you must always be ready to know the strategic interests of your party, to know where the party is heading, and perhaps how you are going to play in a bigger team. You don't go as an individual. That is me, if it's not this, then I'm not going to play. Now, there was also a time, I don't know that this has always been captured. There was also a time when actually Nyerere resigned from the presidency and was the chairman of TANU. That is in the 60s, because that was the time he wanted to build structures of TANU, and he handed over the presidency to Rashid Mfaume Kawawa.
Could we relate the same to when Uhuru Kenyatta went to the ICC? And then, of course, handed over the presidency to Ruto. Is it the same scenario?
That was for 2-3 days.
And circumstantial.
That was
the other one was voluntary.
Yeah, the other one was voluntary. And
for strategic reasons.
For a whole year. Nyerere was chairman of the party, moving around and running government, was left with Rashid Kawawa. Then even later, when Zanzibar and the Tanganyika were merging, Nyerere requested Kawawa to step down as the vice president, so that they can pave room for Abid Karume, because now they were joining 2 countries to form 1 country. So all these scenarios show that once you are in a party,
a small addition.
Yes.
Before the independence of Tanzania, again for strategic reasons, Nyerere was willing to delay the independence of Tanganyika, so that we get independence at the same time, all the 3 countries, and we begin the integration then. Other leaders didn't look at it that way, but that is what we are now trying to achieve. Wow. Someone had that foresight in the 60s. So that's where now strategic leadership comes.
Strategic
and also maybe to also add on what Honourable says, when you also go to Kenya in the 60s, 1963, Jomo Kenyatta was in prison, and Jaramogi Odinga, the Tomboyas were the people who were leading the crusade for Kenya's independence. So there was a time when actually the British were willing to grant Kenya independence when Jomo Kenyatta was in prison. But Jaramogi Odinga said, look here, we cannot attain independence when some of our leaders, actually it was not Kenyatta alone, they have what they call the Kapenguria 6. There were 6 people. So he said when some of our leaders are still in prison. So if Jaramogi was such selfish, he would have said, okay, well, let us have independence, and he becomes the first president of Kenya. So that so because he realized that some of their KANU members were still in prison. So these are some of the issues that we all need to understand, that once you are you subject yourself to a multi-party dispensation, you're a member of the party, you must always know, now that you must always read the barometer of the day and understand where the party wants you to play a role and where it doesn't want you to play a role. Now, in this particular case, what we're seeing now is that I think Kadaga, by defying the party, by defying the party position, it means now the contest is not between Kadaga and Oulanyah, it is between Kadaga and NRM. That is the unfortunate part of it. It is between Kadaga, and perhaps the state. So those are some, because it is NRM that is the ruling party. So these are things that really, it would have been a contest between Oulanyah and Kadaga if perhaps within the NRM, if the party had allowed
subjection to
yes,
a vote.
Yes, but if it was the caucus deciding.
Yes, the caucus.
But now that the party said no, I think we don't want to tear ourselves apart, let us just come up with one candidate, and if whoever defies that, it means now you are not contesting against the person, but you're contesting against the party.
Thank you so much. Before we can actually let Honourable Mike Sebalu take a break, because he's been here from morning time till this particular time, I want to put a question to you, Honourable Mike Sebalu. Kadaga opts to vie for speakership as an independent. Does she remain so even after, or perhaps she returns to the NRM thereafter?
Yeah, that is a very interesting dimension because the party has a candidate, which is very clear.
Okay.
The party has a candidate that they've sponsored. Oulanyah is the flag bearer for the NRM party. Kadaga comes, Right Honourable Alitwaala Kadaga comes in as an independent candidate. Now that defines the position that she occupies even after, because she's not a candidate of the party. If she wins as an independent candidate. And therefore, the best that she can do is maybe to sign a memorandum of understanding to be an NRM-leaning candidate,
Speaker.
like an NRM-leaning speaker.
Yeah.
But she can't be...
So does this mean as well her position as a vice chairperson? Is it first vice chairperson?
Second.
Second. Also ceased to be?
It has a bearing. When you go to the real legal aspect, it has a bearing. It has a bearing because you have to be a member of the party to occupy such positions. Now, by offering yourself as an independent, definitely you lose your rights as a party member, because being a party member has rights, has obligations, and has responsibilities.
Yes.
And one of the obligations and responsibilities is to be loyal to the party, is to be disciplined in matters of the party, is to champion the cause of the party. Now, when it comes to championing the cause, at this point in time, you may be seen as kind of undermining the cause of the party. It can be interpreted as such, because the party has a candidate and you come as a candidate. Now, you coming as a candidate definitely cannot be interpreted as supporting the cause of the party. So it creates quite interesting dynamics, unprecedented,
yes.
And we definitely it is interesting. But at the end of the day, like my brother did indicate, when you are a member of an organization, you subordinate yourself to the organization, to the principles, to the interests, to the aspirations, so that you are able to be part of the team that champions the cause of the party.
Of the party.
And to be a team member is not being, it doesn't reflect so much on the position. It only reflects on the role. That's why even the best teams, for them to win, the aspect of teamwork is important, and teamwork is due to collaboration, cooperation, and playing together. Yes. That's why you find teams that have very strong players losing, because if a strong player plays as an individual, then you lose the synergy of the team. You can be a Ronaldo or a Messi and you score 5. But if the other members of the team are not doing their work, they may score 7 and you lose as a team, although as an individual, you've been a star. So that's where now organizational dynamics play. Comes into the not all the time organizations decide what we want as individuals. But once it is good for the organization, or it is perceived to be good for the organization, many a time we play ball for purposes of the collective good, of the common good of the party. So even being deployed is such
for the common good.
For the common good. You've had situations where people go for interviews and they tell you that so and so got 70 or got 80%. But the board chooses someone maybe
with the
of 70%, using other dimensions and other factors. But it is for the good of the organization. Yes. So these are dynamics that really play. But one thing that I do appreciate is that maybe on reflection or on hindsight, we get a situation that reflects
the choice of the party.
The choice of the party and the cohesion of the party. Because Right Honourable Kadaga needs the party. Likewise, the party needs her as a very useful member. So if that can prevail in terms of appreciating the common good, that would be the best case scenario. My view is that it may not be too late for reconsideration, judging by what is good for the party.
Shall we see a rebel speaker coming our way? Well, that and more we shall be finding out a little later. Otherwise, when we do take a break, we shall be giving the marching orders to Honourable Mike Sebalu, who needs to be getting into another bit of assignment for this particular day. Otherwise, we do thank you so much for your time, as well as you know, the excuse of the rest of the duties for this particular one. Thank you so very much, Sebo.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Akol and Kent. It's been good sharing your company. I hope that at the end of the day, we have a win-win situation. We have a leadership of the parliament as conceived by the party, and we also maintain cohesion within the party where we play as a team.
We would have done a handshake, but we are into the COVID times, so handshaking. We shall as well have the press secretary to the presidency, that is the vice presidency, Mr. James Mututa, joining us a little later. So if you are where you are at, don't you touch that knob.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Introducing Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School, located in Chebando, Chisalu-Salu, along Bukoto Roundabout, 2 kilometers from Kalere at the Northern Bypass, on your way to Chisasi. This is a world-class standard school with the most qualified teachers that will turn your child into a world changer. We have a fully stocked library, a balanced diet for the children, a calm environment suitable for learning, and pocket-friendly school fees. Registration for P1 to P6 is ongoing, and second term is starting on 6th April 2021. Call us on 0774 950 277 or 0705 861 262 for more information. Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School. The Lord is my shepherd.
Has anyone seen Bob? Over here! How did you get in there?
With my Airtel Money MasterCard.
But you don't even have a bank account.
Well, it's not a card. It's virtual, so no plastic, and it's safer.
But what are you doing there?
I want to buy Nancy a birthday gift, book my flight tickets, renew my Big Click subscription, and order a shipment.
The Airtel Money MasterCard. It's not a card, but works just like one. Get one on the Airtel Money menu on your phone.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good morning yet again to you that is joining us. This is UBC TV, Inspiring Uganda. My name is Tony Kent Chaze, and this time around I am taking the position of Jagenda Zikso Kasemakula, but of course he's deployed the other side of Kololo, where we shall as well be joining in to find out how proceedings of the day will unfold. Like we did promise you before we went for the break, we have on the set right about now Mr. James Mututa, who is the press secretary to the office of the vice president. I'm not so sure why that is twisting my tongue. Maybe he will help me concerning that, and definitely joins us alongside Mr. Akol Amazima, as we've been before we went into the break. Now, because we have him on set, and well, he's the difference on the set right now, we shall start with him, definitely. How does it feel getting a new house getting started today? The 11th house, to be specific. Are we enthusiastic? Are we anxious? Are we so much expectant? Is it going to be special? What should we expect anyway? And how does it feel?
There is this man who went to the hospital with a child. So when he got to the hospital and is running around because actually the child is convulsing, said, my child is dying, and trying to talk to every doctor and nurse and whoever could find the corridor. And then people are telling him, what is new? Because in the hospital, people are dying every other day. They have seen people die, old, young, and this one is looking at this child dying, and to him. Now, it depends where you are standing when you talk about excitement of the new members of parliament. Because for those who have lived around this place, have seen a number of parliaments come and go. This is now the number 11 parliament?
11th parliament.
11th, yes.
So we have seen guys come and go, especially if you have been in around this place. But that doesn't mean that the parliament is not useful. Of course, there's a lot of excitement, especially for the newcomers who have joined this crowd of leadership. But there's also the other side of those who are leaving, because a number of them, I think, who stopped working last week, who will have still wished to be around. So the most important thing is that we are having a new leadership in the country, and it's coming in at the time when the number of challenges, of course, starting with the COVID pandemic, the issue of poverty, the issue of democratization, issues of now you are looking at political tolerance and cohesion, both within but also outside the party groupings. So it is a mixture, it's a mixed grill of both the anxiety, but also the excitement. By the end of today, of course, we will have a parliament fully with the speaker and the members of parliament sworn in, and I guess we shall immediately start having business of the parliament. I'm told they don't have where to sit at parliament. In that case, then it means they will continue being in Kololo for some time until the new space is created for all the members of parliament. Someone was telling me last week that the guy who was giving them tents has withdrawn because they have not paid him. I don't know. That's what I was hearing.
Well, it could be having a day. By the way, pictures coming in are those that are giving us a feed of what is in Kololo right now. You can definitely see there is a bit of social distancing. People are having masks on, well, for the few that I can see clearly. And it looks to be, at least, they've been shielded from the rains, as have been the case, or rather has been the case this particular morning. Let me just turn to Mr. Akol Amazima briefly, before probably we get eventual feed from Kololo proper. The deputy speakers, there is Betty, rather there is Anita Among. I don't know why the Among name disturbs me so much. But as well, there is Thomas Tayebwa. That is the Ruhinda County North MP. Then I hear there is Theoda Sechikubo somewhere coming as an independent. Anyway, please just shed us a picture of the same, and so we can see how swift or probably how tight the race for deputy speakership is going to be.
Well, I just want to say that the race for both speaker and deputy speakership is not tight as we assume it to be.
Really?
Yes. I want to say it because I want to be clear on this. It is not as tight as we imagine. Because why I say that it is not as tight as we imagine, you have a party, NRM, that has over 70%, of, actually around 70% of the members of parliament. So here it is not like where at presidential level where they say 50+1. Here it is first past the post that is declared the winner. So in this particular issue, I think it is important that if NRM can manage to whip their members, say please follow the party position, then I don't see these other people having a chance. So it will be an issue of indiscipline from the members of perhaps of NRM voting otherwise. In countries where you've seen a speaker and perhaps a deputy speaker coming from a different party other than the ruling party, has always that you find that both the opposition and the ruling party, in other words, their numbers in parliament are almost the same. You find that maybe there's a difference of 10 or 20 MPs. But where one party has over 300, and the opposition, including the independents, can actually they are less than 200. It means, therefore, that the other party has an edge over the rest. Just like it's like in South Africa or in Tanzania, if imagining that so Chama cha Mapinduzi can lose such a vote. So that would actually be wishful thinking. Now, getting to Taiwa, getting to Honourable Taiwa and Honourable Anita Among. But Honourable Taiwa and Anita Among.
There is actually a fan of the name you mentioned who was making a bit of movement in studio. That's why the cameras picked us getting excited. Yes.
So Honourable Anita Among and Taiwa, of course, all of them originally belong to the FDC. There are people really who crossed over to NRM and they expressed that interest. They all have a background of being very good mobilizers. But now the issue
Honourable Among is actually an accountant?
Yes, actually, he's by training. But equally she went back and studied law. So eventually she's also a law scholar. So the rest between Taiwa and Anita Among, just like the rest is for Oulanyah, Jacob Oulanyah and Rebecca Alitwaala Kadaga, it's now Taiwa and NRM MP competing against his party, and I don't see him having a chance really to win the party. You know, where you have really a party that has just won an election by more than 55%. You have a party that has more than 70% of members of parliament. You can only have a chance of winning if the person that has been fronted is extremely unpopular and extremely incompetent. Yes.
Well, apparently we shall be getting to Kololo in a little while to come, but that is Honourable Amongi Anita. That is one of the persons that is vying for deputy speakership. She was endorsed yesterday after a vote by the NRM SEC. Mr. James Mututa, before we can actually cross proper, we do respect the August House with the highest of dignity, but somehow, somewhere within this particular Chisanja that has come to a close, we saw them fight. So somewhere, somehow, people's respect for the House declined. Do we expect any kind of controversy in this exercise that is going to be getting underway in a few minutes? Like cheating and then chaos or anything?
Fighting in Parliament is not a new thing. It's not even something out of the ordinary. It's not an extraordinary thing, because it is even provided for that even when you fight in Parliament and beat each other, you are free to do so, as long as the fighting doesn't spill outside Parliament. But
well, those are pictures of a bit of what happened in as far as what you're talking about.
Yeah, that is very okay. Because
very okay.
I mean, it is about how you feel. You can express.
Because people could express that kind of feeling today at Kololo.
No, that expression is
okay.
not a problem, but it must be within the limits,
contained.
The confines of the arrangements of Parliament. We saw in Turkey people were fighting. We saw in India people were fighting. We saw in Congo recently people were fighting, and parliaments have been fighting. But as long as you fight within those confines, that you don't cause a lot of damage and injury to each other, because this is one way of people expressing their feeling, and people express their feelings differently. Apparently, when you are in Parliament, it's not about how you feel, but it is about the dignity with which you carry yourself. And you are not expecting that everyone carries themselves in a very dignified way. That is why there are standing orders. That's why there are principles when you are in Parliament. Of course, this was one of the most unfortunate situations, I think, since independence that Uganda has seen. Of course, we have had some fights in Parliament, but I think not to this magnitude. So this was really unfortunate, and we hope and pray that it doesn't happen again in the 11th Parliament. But that notwithstanding, it is also the type of personalities that we vote for to go in Parliament. Because if you have a rascal from home, and of course, what we have in Parliament is a representation of our society back at home, where you find people, and we have seen this even these elections, people are already beginning to say, but this one, so that, but this one means a lot. So when people go to Parliament, it is assumed that you are the best of that society, that you are going to represent them to the best of your ability, but also you are a sample. And you know, when you, for those who do research, when you pick a sample, it must be the representation of the entire community where you are sampling from. Yes. So sometimes you don't get surprised when the sample of that community is exactly what you get, because that is the reflection of the society. Apparently, even after that fight, we have not had many people condemn those who were involved in the fight, which means that to some extent
it was okay.
It was, they feel like that was one of them.
Or probably we should say to a certain extent, the ones meant to condemn are wrong not to condemn.
That not being the question, but the most important thing is that the discipline, because that also reflects on our image outside the parliament and outside the country. What does the rest of the world see? And how do they, even when you walk in their places, in their countries, they have those images back on their minds. They are looking at you. If you are not going to fight for food, if you are not going to do, so it becomes very, very, very funny for the country. But I'm sure, and I pray that this time it might not happen. My only biggest worry is that the numbers are too big, and these big numbers, you don't. In fact, even if you said you are going to allocate 5 minutes for each of them to at least speak, I don't know how many years will it take to
have
finish.
all of them speak.
Yeah, to have all of them speak, and that is going to be a challenge. Already we're having a challenge with the space where they are going to be sitting. I think the new,
as well as the offices,
the new parliament is going to be finished. I don't know how soon, but for the time being, I think they will continue enjoying the comfort of Kololo until the new offices are finished. So coming in, but also they are starting, not just they're going to be given money to buy new cars and drive them, but where you are going to...
Did you expect them to buy and then park them?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. James Mututa, who happens to be the press secretary for the office of the vice president. I'm hoping probably this Chisanja we could work together or something. And as well to you, Mr. Akol Amazima. It's okay, I could still be at UBC while as well doing the other bit, the other side. It's okay. Just to let you know, dear viewer, our 11 radio stations are also connected right about now. And so you don't have to feel like you're missing out on the function simply because probably it's coming only on TV or something. No, the radio stations are also available, and probably to take you through, just in case you know of any of them, and perhaps as well the frequency, West Nile FM is available to you. We do have Karamoja FM, Mega FM, Totore FM, Magic 100 FM, UBC West, Empika Hona, Buruli FM, Ngea FM, which is as well Kasese FM, UBC Radio, Magic 100, Butebo, and perhaps, well, I think I've mentioned all of them with the inclusion of Mega FM. Please feel free to tune in to any of those so as to follow this function as it goes down into history. A little later, perhaps, we shall be coming back the same bit of where we are seated to probably paint a picture of what we think of what will have come through as a result of whatever is going to get started upon this particular time. We don't want to miss out on the entertainment in Kololo. There is a bit of the band entertaining, the colors, the dress codes, everything else that is happening. So how about we take you to Kololo right about now? Don't touch your dial. Keep it UBC, inspiring Uganda.
It has been 5 fruitful years of activity, legislation, collaboration and networking for the 10th Parliament. The 10th Parliament was resolute, starting with the swearing in of the over 450 newly elected legislators in May 2016. The ceremony was spread over for 3 days to accommodate the numbers.
As by the law established, so help me God.
This was followed in quick succession by the election of the presiding officers of Parliament. The Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga was elected unopposed as Speaker.
I, Alitwaala Rebecca Kadaga, swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will at all times well and truly serve the Republic of Uganda in the office of Speaker, and that I will support and uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda as by law established. So help me God.
After a competitive race for the deputy speakership, the Right Honourable Jacob Oulanyah emerged victorious.
That my role as deputy speaker will be continue to execute with utmost diligence assignments given to me by the Speaker and this august House. That standard should apply to all of us when executing whatever assignment we will be given as members of Parliament.
As stipulated in the Constitution and the Rules of Procedure, this important event was presided over by the Chief Justice and for the first time attended by His Excellency, the President. Subsequently, Cabinet was appointed, with significant newcomers being the Security Minister, Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde, and Minister without portfolio, Honourable Alhaj Abdu Naduli. Others were the Minister for Kampala, Honourable Betty Olive Namisango Kamya, and the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Honourable Betty Amongi. The Vice President, His Excellency Edward Kiwanuka Sekandi, and the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Ruhakana Rugunda, were later approved through motions on the floor of Parliament.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by Parliament as follows: that Parliament approves the appointment by the President of Honourable Ruhakana Rugunda as Prime Minister. I beg to move.
Those in favor, raise your hands.
The party with the second largest majority in Parliament, the Forum for Democratic Change, then appointed Honourable Winfred Kiza as the leader of the opposition in Parliament, the first woman ever to occupy the post in the legislative history of Uganda. 2.5 years later, the office changed, with Honourable Betty Awol Ochan taking over. Following the composition of committees of Parliament and the assigning of various leadership roles to the members of Parliament, the 10th Parliament, through its Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises, commonly known as COSASE, instituted a probe into the infamous handshake, a 6 billion shillings payout to Uganda Revenue Authority officials for winning a case against Tullow Oil in a British court.
Correspondence to the Ministry of Finance. There are 2 letters that were issued to the Minister of Finance. His Excellency the President's letter dated the 16th of November, and the letter by myself to the Honourable Minister dated 5th of May. The letter dated 16th of November was the directive by His Excellency the President to the Minister of Finance to make the payment.
The probe, led by Committee Chairperson Honourable Abdu Katuntu, was a centre of national focus for months on end, climaxing with a recommendation to have the officials refund the money.
5.8 billion remains unaccounted for. And that's a report which came out last week by the Auditor General, and we have asked them to account for each and every coin of that money. And indeed, the President did say that we are right, we should follow it up to the last penny.
There have also been committee field visits by the accountability committees in the course of executing their oversight role. Of the many petitions that have characterized the 10th Parliament, one that stood out is that against the dredging and sand mining activities in Reda, a swamp located along the Kampala-Masaka highway, with Chinese miners on the lake shores doing so much damage, coupled with an absence of a definition of sand as a mineral. Parliament decided to put an end to the mining, which had destroyed breeding grounds for fish and caused severe depletion of fish stocks in Lake Victoria.
The company was expected to apply for and obtain a wetland resource user permit from NEMA so as to carry out commercial sand mining in the Katonga wetland system. However, the company lacked a wetland permit and was therefore illegally mining sand. Established fish ponds within 200 meters of Lake Victoria protected zone. In other words, it flouted that other regulation of having no activity within a protection zone of 200 meters from the shoreline. It also erected permanent structures in the wetland. They are there, visible there. They also transported wet sand contrary to the condition in the permit, of course risking the life of the road. C. Lukaya sand dealers. The company, one, was mining sand within 200 meters from Kampala-Masaka Road, risking the safety of the road.
Then came the much talked about Constitution Amendment Bill 2017, also known as the Age Limit Bill, that attracted passionate debate from all sides of the political spectrum for and against the legislation, with animated sittings that stretched for hours.
Do not look on at the presidential level. We are affecting people at that local level. If you are less than 30, you are not going to be a chairman of LC3. Really, if we want to contest for chairmanship of LC5, you will not make it because you are less than 35 years.
Honourable Samba.
Majority of our people, as Right Honourable Speaker, are members of the NRM party. During my consultations, majority told me they have no problem with amending the Constitution. But they told me I should never ever support the amendment of Article 102B. The climax of the 10th Parliament is this bill. Whether you like it or not, the definition of the 10th Parliament is going to be about how the 10th Parliament handled the Constitution Amendment Bill introduced by Honourable Raphael Magezi. When you look at our past, as ably put by our Constitution, how do we want this country to be?
Members, if we visited Article 144 of the Constitution and 143, where the civil servants have got to retire at 60 years, the judges and justices have got to resign at 60, 65, and 70. Who are we to promote the office of the president up to 75 years and above? That is unrealistic. We should be to our conscience.
I represent the people of Koboko municipality. I moved in the 3 divisions of Koboko municipalities and also moved in all the villages of Koboko municipality. 99% of the people told me not only to touch the Constitution, but touch the Constitution and touch and squeeze this Article 102B out of the Constitution.
If the presidency was a vehicle, it had been given 2 limits. The front brake and the rear one. In 2005, the front brakes were removed because the driver was said to be good, the car was in a good mechanical condition, and the road was also good. This time around, we are saying because the vehicle is still in a good condition, the driver still can drive, and that the road is still good, we should also remove the rear brakes. This is dangerous because we shall have a driver that is driving limitlessly.
The intent of the bill was to remove age limitations for presidential candidates and local council leaders across the board. The bill also extended the time within which aggrieved presidential candidates could file petitions to the Supreme Court, and also extended the number of days that the Supreme Court may take before arriving at a decision from 30 to 45 days. Away from the Constitution Amendment Bill, the MPs also processed other bills and motions. Some of the bills passed by the House include the Sugar Bill 2019, the Landlord and Tenants Bill 2018, the Traffic and Road Safety Act 1998 Amendment Bill 2019, the Physical Planning Amendment Bill 2019, the KCCA Amendment Bill 2019, the Administration of the Judiciary Bill 2019, the Mental Health Bill 2019, the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill 2017, the Lotteries and Gaming Amendment Bill 2018, the Landlord and Tenant Bill 2018. Other bills included the Kampala Capital City Authority Amendment Bill 2015, the Physical Planning Amendment Bill 2018, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Amendment Bill 2019, the Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Bill 2019, the Local Government Amendment Bill 2019, the Parliamentary Elections Amendment Bill 2019, the Presidential Elections Amendment Bill 2019, and the finance bills which come with the passing of the national budget. There were a number of private members' bills passed, and these include the Institute of Parliamentary Studies Bill 2020, the National Local Content Bill 2019, and the Law Revision Penalties in Criminal Matters Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2015.
We must have enacted over 112 bills. We had planned for 100, and this is despite the COVID pandemic, which disrupted our work, despite the 4 months were not in session because of the general elections.
Over the years, backbench members have gained the relevant experience to draft and present legislation in their areas of interest. However, it is majorly the duty of the executive to introduce new laws to the House.
I'll now put the question to the motion that the Honourable Mpaka Mwine, MP for Youth Western, be granted leave by this House to present a private member's bill entitled the Uganda Development Bank Amendment Bill 2018. Will those in favour say to the contrary? No. Aye. The ayes have it.
Parliament received high-powered delegations with the first ever visit by a sitting Prime Minister of India to Uganda, His Excellency Narendra Modi, in July 2018. Modi promised several trade and investment opportunities, as well as a fund to construct a monument in Jinja, where the ashes of the late Mahatma Gandhi were interred.
We will continue to intensify and deepen our engagement with Africa. As we have shown, it will be sustained and regular. 2, our development partnership will be guided by your priorities.
The President of the Serbian National Assembly, the Right Honourable Maja Gojovic, signed a series of bilateral agreements with Parliament on staff and members' training. The 10th Parliament hosted a series of conferences, notably the 64th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference in September 2019, with over 700 delegates from Commonwealth countries in attendance. The conference, which was held under the theme Adaptation, Engagement and Evolution of Parliaments in a Rapidly Changing Commonwealth, offered the opportunity for members of Parliament to benefit from professional development, supportive learning, and sharing of best practices from colleagues across the Commonwealth.
Malawi, welcome to Uganda. Allow me to recognize Mauritius. You are welcome to Uganda.
Uganda hosted the Commonwealth Youth Conference in April 2018 with over 200 delegates from the Africa region. The resolutions from this conference formed the agenda of the regional conference held later in August 2018 in Botswana. Away from legislation and oversight, Parliament continues to implement the 2012 Interparliamentary Resolution of taking Parliament to the people. This has been evidenced with the annual Parliament Week for the past 5 years. The 2020 Parliament Week was graced with the presence of the Interparliamentary Union President, Gabriela Chavez-Baron, who was particularly impressed with the opening up of Parliament to the people. During this time, the institution offers members of the public an opportunity to tour the Parliament building and learn about its unique features and the history associated with it. They also get to meet their representatives at the Meet Your MP sessions. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Jacob Oulanyah, superintends the stakeholder engagement that brings together various leaders for a topical discussion.
Many times ministries argue that the districts are not having enough human resource, and yet the same ministries that are supposed to facilitate us do not provide the wage bill.
Every time when we meet as district chairperson, we talk about the same problem. We talk about what we think should be done to solve the problem. We talk about so much every time we meet. And because of that, some of us these days have decided to start avoiding so many meetings in Kampala. We come, talk a lot, go back, nothing is done.
Most of the economies that have developed and the fast growing economies have emphasized majorly three things. One is empowering local governments or regional interventions, strategic regional interventions. And two is skills development in the country. And three is stamping out corruption.
The bad will of Parliament is the one that has killed local governments, because all decisions are made in Parliament. I'm very lucky, even if I don't come here again. I've delivered my message that Parliament has killed local governments. If you respected local governments and believed without pretense that local governments are your drivers and your owners of the bus, the owner of the bus is as good as the driver in delivery of passengers to the destinations. So if you're making money, in this case, if service delivery is money, and economically, you need more money, facilitate the driver. He will deliver the passengers very well.
You are the problem. There is nobody else. We are the problem. We are the problem. And now, we are also the solution. Now, I want to request one thing, Right Honourable Deputy Speaker. Do your part as Parliament.
Essentially, if you have elected people set up to be part of the delivery mechanisms of services to the people effectively, then they have to have the right knowledge. Then they have to have the right set of skills to be able to do that. So those are the essential challenges that we face. And when we look at some of the things, we see that there are glaring challenges in the way we are managing decentralization in this country.
I'm seeing honourable members taking selfies, using their phones. Please, desist from using your phones within the plenary.
Perhaps the most popular is the public parliament, where members of the public get to have a feel of being legislators for a day. They convene and elect a speaker and hold a debate in the parliament chambers.
We are all going to vote. Which is the symbol of authority for Parliament, and I'm also handing it over to you.
Yes, honourable member, you may proceed.
I am going to speak primary English. I don't second to increase local government money because of those reasons.
Right Honourable Speaker, my name is Kasirivu Enoch Mark, representing Kawempe South. Regarding the motion that we were tabling today, there are two things that we must understand. There are facts and realities. The fact of the matter is the local government system in Uganda requires funding. And yet the reality is it has not been given enough funding to fulfill its responsibilities and functions.
Asante sana kumpa mimi hapa niongee.
We were able to open up the parliament to the public, and we have had an annual parliamentary week where the citizens come, they study what is happening in parliament. They even have their own parliament. They sit in the chambers and debate their own issues, which they give us. So I think that has been the difference. The other one was more outreach outside Kampala, but this has been, there has been more of the public coming to. So we have demystified parliament, and the people know much more about it.
The flagship of the week is a fundraiser to support people living with albinism, with a goal of setting up a one-stop community center for them. There have also been outreach programs like the reforestation in Moroto and other areas, and the distribution of menstrual hygiene materials to girls in schools. The outreaches have been spearheaded by staff of Parliament. The 10th Parliament has been one of many firsts, including setting up of the breastfeeding and daycare center. The baby care center enables MPs and staff to report to work with their children and allows them time in between their busy schedules to nurse them. With the expected rise in numbers in the 11th Parliament, the construction of the new parliamentary chamber was launched in July 2017. Rocco Construction Company was contracted to undertake the project. With the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the early 2020, and as a way to manage the pandemic while still serving the nation, Parliament amended the rules of procedure to allow for virtual sittings. Only 100 members were allowed to attend sittings of Parliament at any one given time, and staff were directed to work in shifts.
Honourable members, Madam Speaker.
Plenary was first held in the conference hall, but as the pandemic intensified, sittings were moved to the South Wing parking lot to enable adequate spacing in accordance with the standard operating procedures. Sadly, Parliament lost some members who succumbed to the deadly coronavirus. The House also lost several hours of work for plenary and committees due to the observance of strict curfew hours during the lockdown.
Parliament lost a total of 35 working hours in terms of plenary sitting, as a result of the inset of curfew at 7 p.m. because we had to close business at 5. The committees of the House lost 1,800 hours for the same reasons.
Members of the 10th Parliament have continued to raise issues of national importance that affect their constituencies and the country at large.
Right Honourable Speaker, in the year 2012-13, Right Honourable Speaker, Government of Uganda developed response on the condition of nodding syndrome in northern Uganda. Policy guideline was initiated to guide every interventions under the leadership of the Office of the Prime Minister to do the coordination. Right Honourable Prime Minister, I am wondering whether government is still following the terms and conditions in these guidelines.
This disaggregated management of the rate should be avoided. Government should give us a comprehensive report on Lake Victoria, on what is happening, and on the future program involving all agencies of government, works, environment, industry, fisheries, wetlands, so that we move today and sustain our lake and revive it.
We know that wetlands have been encroached on by different people in different ways over different periods. Government is studying in detail the modalities of how wetlands can be best recovered without causing unnecessary chaos.
Ugandans are suffering. I have people who came one time from Serere. I think they finished around 2 weeks looking for an ID, and they had nowhere to stay. And they will say, maybe as a member of parliament, you write a letter. These people can help us. Every time they come, they are put behind. There was this general time when they were updating again IDs. Up to today, those Ugandans who registered have not got IDs.
What I wanted the government to do is to explain, one, how the management of border in Kampala is being addressed.
For the last 2 months, however, patients have been unable to access scanning services as the only scanner has broken down and there are no technicians to repair it. This has affected the delivery of services. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is not an isolated case, as many equipment in the hospitals and health centers remain out of use, sometimes as a result of simple repairs.
These range from natural disasters such as floods, locusts, landslides, and disease outbreaks to other issues like insecurity, border conflicts, infrastructure, health and education, among others. The 10th Parliament has not been devoid of sad moments, and Parliament chooses to hold on to the memories of the fallen legislators. As the sun sets on the 10th Parliament, there will be memories of the great days, debates, events and achievements which will be forever etched on the minds of legislators and the public alike.
We've cut and